threat as characterized by the World Health Organization, and something that needs our attention, really. Yeah.
So let's get to the real discussion. If we say antimicrobial resistance, what does that mean to the person viewing us? And of course, an overview statistic, and of course, why has it increased? And of course, you're calling upon the public, what next?
Okay. So, antimicrobial resistance, in simple terms, it's when medicine that was working on infections and diseases caused by germs like fungi, parasites, and viruses, all these things we know. So it's when medication that was working on diseases caused by those microbes stops working. And why does it stop working? Because of how we use these drugs and how we handle them to actually bring about that resistance. So in simple terms, it's when medicine stops working because of how we use it.
Oh, okay. So what are some of those causes of some of those factors that make drugs fail to work?
Okay, so drugs fail to work, one, when we go to a pharmacy. For example, I'm going to give a very basic example. You go to a pharmacy because you have a flu, and your neighbor had a flu and they use a certain medication, and now you think, if my neighbor used that medication, we both have flu, I could go to the pharmacy, self-prescribe myself that medicine. So, self-prescription of medication, you are not a health professional. You don't exactly know how medicines work and what medicine you should use, but then you're going to a pharmacy and ordering the pharmacist to give you amoxicillin, which is an antibiotic, for flu, which is a viral infection. So, one, it's caused about by us self-prescribing, and in that self-prescribing, we are using the medicines wrongly. Now, how do they get to the resistance itself? Is that these antibiotics, for example, if they are to work on an infection caused by bacteria, they are supposed to be killed to zero, to reduce to zero. Say you have bacteria are at 100% in your body and you want to reduce them to zero. They're supposed to be killed to zero. So for you, when you take medicine, you do not have a bacterial infection, but you are taking antibiotics. Even the small population of microbes that are in your body will look at that medicine, will recognize it. I'm trying to explain it in lay terms so we understand it. So it's like you're cheating exams for these microbes, right? Because they know this medication, this is how it works. So this is the mechanism of action of this drug. So they now bring about mechanisms that prevent that drug from working again when you take it, because you've taken it at doses that are suboptimal. Now that brings me to the second thing. The second thing that causes antimicrobial resistance that we all participate in is not finishing medication. So they prescribe for you antibiotics. You have a bacterial infection. So when you take the medicine for 2 days, say, they told you to take it for 4 days, but you take it for 2 days. After 2 days, you're now feeling okay. So now your brain will then tell you, I'm feeling okay, so I do not need to continue with this treatment. But then what you've done is that you've cheated exams for these microbes. You have not killed them to reduce them to 0%. So those ones that are not killed will look at that medicine, know how it works, know its mechanism of action. So when you take it another time, when you keep on doing that, the more times you do it, the more the bacteria know the mechanism of action and know how to counteract that mechanism of action. So if you keep on doing it, you're going to reach a point where you take medicine for certain infections and it's not working anymore. And this is very, very rampant right now, because even just statistic-wise, in 2019, the deaths caused by antimicrobial resistance were more than the deaths caused by malaria and HIV combined. And we know that malaria is one of the diseases that cause the most deaths, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So if there is if there is a condition that's causing more deaths than malaria and HIV combined, then I think we should really be concerned as a community.
Wow. Thank you so much. Now, you've elaborated about why it is increasing in Uganda. And of course, why do you think is it increasing?
So one, we all have a role to play in antimicrobial resistance in causing it. One, from the whole chain of where the drug is manufactured to the end user. So there's the role the doctor plays, the role the company plays, the role that the doctors play, the role the pharmacists play, the role that dispensers play, and the roles that the users of these medicines play. So, one, let's start from the dispenser, because that's, I think, where we get the most medicine from, and this is where it contributes one of the biggest percentages to causing antimicrobial resistance, especially here in Uganda. So what happens is that these dispensers do not sometimes give patients adequate information about the drug they are giving them. So if you come to me and tell me, I want amoxicillin, or just name any antibiotic, some pharmacists would not take the initiative to ask, why are you using this antibiotic? What are you using it for? Like, the information exchange between the patient and the dispenser is not enough for the dispenser to give them information about how to actually use that drug and to prevent resistance. Also, sometimes some health workers prescribe antibiotics when they are not supposed to be used. And also, sometimes they prescribe antibiotics and expensive medicines because they are trying to make sales, because the pharmacist profession, some people treat it as like a lucrative business. The pharmacy businesses, they are very money-minded sometimes, some of them. So what they do is that, let me give you the analogy of killing a mosquito with a bullet. So you have a mild infection, and you just need a simple antibiotic. You know, like in antibiotics, there are also grades of antibiotics. There are those that are stronger, and those that are used for mild bacterial infections. So you come to a pharmacy because the other more broad spectrum and complicated antibiotic it's a wide spectrum antibiotic, but then it is the most expensive. So instead of giving the patient this one that works mildly, you give them the one that is more expensive because you're looking at making sales. And especially in those dispensing clinics and pharmacies, they emphasize dispensers making sales because, you know, you earn from the sales you make in a day. So obviously you have to, you know, bring your sales up and give expensive medication. So all that is playing a role in causing antimicrobial resistance. That's one. But second, the patients themselves. The patients is us, the end user, and you who's watching me. What we do is that when we feel better, we stop taking the antibiotic. I explain how that causes resistance. Secondly, we do not practice good hygiene. So the thing with antibiotics is that the more they are used, even if we use them cautiously, in the long run, there would the bacteria and germs and fungi would develop resistance. So what we need to do is to delay that process of, bringing about resistance. So we need to prevent infection, so that with us preventing infection, then we reduce the need to use these antimicrobials, antibiotics, and antivirals and antifungi medicines. And hence, we contribute to antimicrobial resistance by not maintaining good hygiene. But third, and this is most common in people who work in the animal industry, who are maybe farmers or people who keep chicken, sometimes they give antibiotics to these animals. They feed them yes, pigs, even chicken. So I recommend that if you're to give animals antibiotics and medicines, they should be prescribed by a veterinary doctor. They should be prescribed and they should be given in specific doses as advised by the person who prescribed them. So how this resistance comes from animals is that in the long run, we are going to obviously consume these animals through meat products. And the resistance can also be carried in that meat that we eat. So in that way, we are contributing. There is so many other ways we could contribute to antimicrobial resistance, and I could go on and on. But most importantly, it's how we take medicine in suboptimal doses. It's how we give antibiotics to animals. It's how we do not maintain good hygiene, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Murembe. Now, I am very much interested in an experience or in a scenario. Have you had a case scenario where a patient is having AMR?
Yes.
Please share the scenario and how the patient presented. You know, that history is important. Please share us a scenario.
Okay, so these scenarios are very many, so I can't explicitly like describe one case, but I'm going to explain it in like a broader aspect and maybe help the person who's watching us to understand. So the thing about antimicrobial resistance is that you could have the most money, you could have the best doctors, but when antimicrobial resistance happens, you can't help it. So, for example, there are patients that come to the hospital and they have all the support they need, money-wise, they have families that have come with them, they have everything a patient would want. So these are people who, if things failed here in Uganda, they could fly out and go to another country and seek health care there. So antimicrobial resistance, even when it happens and you're resistant to all the antibiotics that we have, even if you have so much money, there is nothing we can do for you, because it means all the medicine that we have for you, even all the medicine that you find when you go abroad, will not work for you. So you literally have to just go on now palliative care, maybe sit home and wait to die. Oh, the other thing is that for things that we could have treated with just medication, you're now having to go to surgery. Imagine going to surgery for a treatment that you could have just dealt with by taking antibiotics. Third, there are patients who stay in hospitals for very long because for simple infections like flu, like maybe infections on a wound, you could treat it with an antibiotic that works if it's still susceptible, and you could heal in like 3 days if you're very consistent with taking your medicine. But with antimicrobial resistance, if we test and all the antibiotics, by the way, even testing for susceptibility takes very long. So you're in the hospital, we try one antibiotic, it does not work. So we carry out susceptibility tests. Susceptibility tests is when we test different antibacterials and antimicrobials to see if they work on the issue that you have. So imagine that process takes like 3 days. 3 days is even a short time, it usually takes longer. So we try one, it takes 3 days, we try another, it takes 3 days. Meanwhile, you're going through pain, your condition is still there, you're going through all this that could have been prevented if you took your antibiotics well, and we as a collective prevented the antimicrobial resistance that's now making you go through this. Yes.
Wow, very wonderful running scenarios. Thank you so much, Murembe. You have such experience in AMR. And of course, now I would like to know, what are some of the campaigns that you've done to raise this across Uganda?
Okay, so as the Antimicrobial Resistance Club, we majorly focus on reaching out to communities and breaking down this topic so that they understand it better. So one, we've done a lot of school outreaches, especially in districts in Uganda, like in, we went to Jinja. We've also been to, sorry, I forgot the place, but it's somewhere in the north of Uganda. So in the east of Uganda still, sorry, we went to 2 schools. So what we did was to explain AMR to the students and give them materials like books and pictures that could help describe the topic and break it down. Because when it comes to AMR, we all have a role to play, including students. We've also done some awareness campaigns at hospitals, explaining to patients what AMR is and how to prevent it. We've also created multiple AMR clubs in different schools, starting from the Makerere Primary School, which is just right next to home, which is Makerere University. So we've founded antimicrobial resistance clubs, and these clubs help to create the awareness. They help to break down these topics to students and to children, even down to the nursery students, because they can understand that if you take medicine and you do not finish your dose, then you will not heal, or the next time you take that medicine, it will not work for you. So these topics, they can be understood by children. So we try to break that down. Also, we've done some AMR competitions. We do a lot of work among university students as well. We've done essay competitions, explaining to, bringing about like topics that explain AMR. So like we bring a concept topic that maybe explains AMR and integrates it with artificial intelligence and technology, how we can leverage technology to prevent AMR, topics like that. And then people send in submissions, and then, you know, and it's inspiring, because it's not just the College of Health Sciences where we are that students take part in these activities. Students from also other colleges come and join us, and we create awareness together. Also, we did a bike competition last year. We're going to have an edition next year, and all of you are welcome, the people who are watching us. But it was basically a bike against AMR, the way you hear a run against AMR. So it was basically people coming together. Of course, like the concept is AMR, describing it, breaking it down to the simplest details for everyone to understand. But it's a bike competition, so people were biking in campus and competing for prizes. And the prizes obviously had a lot of AMR information on them. And we engage as many students as we can, and as many primary school students and secondary school students as we can, to create awareness. Because if you empower the student is going to also empower their parents, who may not be understanding what you're talking about. So it's really creating a ripple effect, that we are not just reaching out to students, we are also reaching out to the general public through the students.
Wow, thank you so much. Now I want us to come back to the main reason. Why does antimicrobial resistance matter to the viewer?
So to the viewer, if you're watching me, I want you to understand AMR in this statistic. Because, you know, when you just explain a disease to someone, it's like you don't really get the concept of how dire the situation is. So I'll explain it. I always like to explain it in terms of statistics. So like I described to you, compare the deaths of malaria and the deaths of HIV. Those two diseases are diseases, if mentioned in a room, especially for like HIV, people would not be settled, you know, like it's a disease that we know kills many people. Malaria is also one disease that we know kills people. But imagine in 2019, the deaths from those two diseases combined was not more than the deaths caused by AMR. The World Health Organization estimates that in 50 years, AMR is going to cause, in the next few years, AMR is going to be causing over 50 million deaths a year. That's a very big number. So to the user, this is just to help you understand that this is a big problem, a problem that needs our attention, a problem that needs us to solve it. And usually when you talk about diseases like these, people have the mentality that, you know, I have my money, so if I get sick, really my money can save me. I can get the best doctors, I can get the best medication. But to bring it to your attention, when antimicrobial resistance happens and you're not susceptible to any, the disease that you have is not susceptible to any antibiotics, you're resistant, no amount of money is going to save you. You are going to die. you are going to die because we will not have medication to help you. So we have to be aware of how we use our medication, and we have to be very cognizant of the fact that anytime if resistance happens, there is going to be trouble. In 2019 alone, AMR directly caused over 1.2 million deaths. And if you combine with the deaths that were caused by AMR directly and the ones that were caused by AMR indirectly, there are over 6 million deaths by just AMR. So it should call to our attention that we actually need to be part of the people solving this problem, because we are also affected.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mirembe, for sharing this experience. Of course, now I would like now to look at a broader perspective of the consequences, of antimicrobial resistance. Give us like 5 good points as we intend to learn more about AMR. I'm also learning, that's why I'm very, very attentive.
Okay, so about the consequences of AMR, one, like I explained, long hospital stays, because if we don't have medicine that works for you, we are trying to find all ways to help you. You're going to stay in hospital longer. Secondly, the impact on your pockets. You know that these antibiotics that you buy in pharmacies, they're very affordable. You get them over the counter. It's really very easy to get antibiotics, and they're not very expensive to an average Ugandan. But if you have an infection that's resistant, you're going to have to look at more expensive antibiotics. More expensive antibiotics, that is going to have an impact on your pocket. Third, there is going to be more likely, there is going to be a bigger chance of you dying of an infection that could have been treated, but because the medicine is resistant, we do not have anywhere to help you, you're going to die of simple infections that could have been prevented easily. Third, we are going to have, like I've explained the statistics of AMR, we are going to have increased deaths. Like I've explained to you the deaths, and according to the World Health Organization statistics, if you compare them with the statistics that we have right now and the ones that are projected to happen, there is really no hope if we do not do something about antimicrobial resistance. So when you're taking your medication and you are not finishing that medication, you're taking medication for 2 days and you are prescribed to take them for 5 days, but because you feel better, now you're going to stop taking that medicine, you are contributing to AMR. Know that you are contributing to antimicrobial resistance. When you go to the pharmacy and self-prescribe yourself medication, know that you are contributing to antimicrobial resistance, even if you are sure that this medicine works for you, because you're not a health professional. You cannot know for sure that this medicine I'm getting is for what I'm getting. I am supposed to take it at this dose and it's supposed to work for me. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And of course, you are still watching Good Data Vision. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course Instagram, where you can share your opinion. And of course on our Frit channel and other social media platforms on GoTV, everywhere you can also access this very important health and beauty program. And of course, we're going for a short quick break. We're still talking about antimicrobial resistance, but when we return, we should discuss more about the preventative strategies, calling upon the stakeholders and the policymakers, the government, so that we can join efforts as a multidisciplinary team, rallying all professionals, including health professionals, but also other different entities, so that we can use wholesome energy to beat the antimicrobial resistance in Uganda. See you shortly.
Wayagala ebyuma ebirungi ebyogera pasita pasiteri atunda nange ngoma ne gita zonna basita pasiteri amplifier ne mizindalo basita pasiteri ebitala bya stage ebyebika byonna basita pasiteri ebyuma bya events tubirina byonna basita pasiteri awutudo wa screen tupangisa basita pasiteri kukizimbe kya Newmark William Street basita pasiteri kati ndogendayo musajja mwesigwa kituufu endo gye gisoboka ekibanja mpola akikwata wagula ebyekkanisa jangu ewa pasita pasiteri
tusangibwa ku kizimbe kya Newmark ku William Street ku ground floor room number N31 opposite DFCU Bank. Esimu noti 78200 ne noti 75200 wano wokka we tusangibwa.
Wake up, put on your strength, and shake it off.
Makerere Full Gospel Church Youth Ministry presents the Awaken Camp 2026 at African Village Hotel, Mukono, from 2nd to 7th of January. Theme Isaiah 52 verses 1 and 2 at only 180k. Mitwaro kumina munana joka. Join us for a week packed with the word, prayer, fellowship, praise and worship. Not forgetting streaming, games, and loads of fun. Bionera kumitwaru kumina munana joka. For payment and installment, visit the youth desk, the Awaken Camp 2026. Powered by Emirates Fire Engineering Company Limited and Google Day TV.
Once again, you are most welcome to Google Data Vision. You're located at Sapro Kagwaro Makefro Gospel Church, where we are live. And of course, we'd like to encourage you and thank you for watching us all the time. But very important is to encourage you to come to Christian life and get saved, because you do not know where the future is going. And we're still talking about antimicrobial resistance. If you're doing self-prescription, that's wrong. If you're not completing your medication, that's wrong. If you're sharing your drugs, that's wrong. If you're buying antibiotics for your pigs, for your hens, for your chicks, when they get those bad flus, that's very, very wrong. And all this has been illustrated fully by the pharmacist whom we are hosting tonight, and she's explaining lots of good information for us. Now, of course, the whole battle goes back to you and me, and now we are going to explore how best can we prevent antimicrobial resistance. How can we ensure that our drugs are now effective? And of course, we want to begin with individuals. And of course, from individuals, Mirembe, we shall talk to the communities, then we shall talk to households, and talk to the government, and of course to the overall health workers in the long run. Each group, give it like 2 minutes, so that we can fully explore them about MR.
Okay. Thank you, Kamara. So I'll start with individuals, which will also combine communities, generally the end user of the antibiotic. Like we have been explaining throughout this session, do not use antibiotics for viral infections, one, but also that all comes down to self-medication. Do not self-medicate. If you have an illness, if you have a cough, a flu, please walk to your nearest pharmacy and do not ask for specific medication that for you want, but ask for advice on what medicine you should take for what infection that you have. Or, most recommended, please visit a hospital, get diagnosed, and only then can you take medicine. Because if you self-prescribe, you are contributing to antimicrobial resistance. Even if you've researched about this medicine, even if you've gone to ChatGPT and, you know, put in some information to get information about what medicine to use, you are not a health worker. Please visit the hospital and get diagnosed and be given medicine that works for the disease that you have. But secondly, if you get that information, you're supposed to be very inquisitive when you're getting information from whoever is giving it to you. Information about your medicine. If it's written 1 times 2, if you do not understand that inscription written on that paper, please inquire from the doctor. It's 1 times 2. How am I taking it? So we had a scenario where we were in hospital and we were asking a patient about how she's taking her medication. She was saying, the medication is not working, but I've been taking it. My daughter, the daughter was the one that was sick, and the mom was the one explaining to us her symptoms. So the child had end-stage kidney disease. So the mom was telling us that the medicine, we've taken all medicine, but it's not working. And then we were telling her, how do you take this medicine? She explained that sometimes they don't take, sometimes they forget. The medicine, some of it's supposed to be 2 times a day, but they take in the morning after breakfast and then after lunch. So there is a duration to which you're supposed to take this medicine. If they say 1 times 2, you're supposed to know that the interval between which I'm supposed to take this medication is 12 hours. You count 24 hours a day. 1 times 2, it means I take 1. If I take 1 at 6, I count 12 hours before I take another one. And you're supposed to be very strict with the times in which you take this medication. Third, after getting that information from the pharmacist, you're supposed to also get other information about how to take the medication, what to take it with, what you should not take it with, what you should not take as you're taking the medicine. All that, you're supposed to ask for information about the drug that you're taking. But third, when you get home, this is where compliance comes in. You're supposed to be very compliant in taking your medication. Like I've explained, stick to the times that have been described by the doctor. If it's 2 times 3, get to 24 hours, divide by 3. Know what interval in which you're going to take that medicine so that you save yourself and save the ones that are coming after you, because this resistance is not just resistance that to get you. If you give birth to a child, that child might have the same resistance that you have. Like, it can also be transmitted. So it can also be transmitted through environment, through the water that we drink, the meat that we eat. So you just have to be very vigilant. If it's collective effort, it will definitely work. But second, that is to all the end users, community, you, the user, that's the person watching. Then secondly, now to health workers, if you are a person that has been given the privilege to offer services of medical related services to heal people, services to make people's lives easier through the treatment of diseases. You could be a dispenser, you could be a pharmacist, you could be a doctor. Please, please, and please, when you're prescribing, put antimicrobial resistance into account. I know that sometimes it's about sales and it's about how much money you make, but the money that you make through those sales will not matter if you're in a hospital bed one time and all the antibiotics are resistant and we just have to watch you die. So I don't think that money can be compared to life. So I think that it should be in your conscience to prescribe antibiotics when they are needed, to prescribe antibiotics and prescribe the right intervals in which patients are to take these antibiotics. Do susceptibility tests so that you are not giving an antibiotic that would, in the long run, be resistant to the disease that the person has or the diseases that they'll get after. Be informed as a healthcare professional so that when you're giving services to people, it's actually helpful and it does not contribute to the problem that is already existent. But third, to policymakers, I'll give you an example. In more developed countries, like say Australia, you're supposed to have prescriptions. In Canada, you're supposed to have prescriptions to access antibiotics. You're supposed to have a prescription. Actually, the person who came up with one of the most common antibiotics, which is penicillin, he described in his research that these antibiotics are going to be in the future be more accessible to the common man. And if they are more accessible to the common man, like he foresaw it coming when he discovered this antibiotic, that if they are more accessible to the common man, then it's more likely that they will develop resistance faster. So it's what we are seeing here. So like I was explaining to you, in Canada, you're supposed to have a prescription to have an antibiotic. Even if it's a simple antibiotic like amoxicillin, you're supposed to have a prescription. But here in Uganda, you can just walk into a pharmacy and tell the dispenser, me, I want this amoxicillin. And if the pharmacist starts asking you questions, you maybe have it in your mind that they don't know what they are talking about. So you could just go to another pharmacy. Like if that pharmacist is informed enough to not give you the antibiotic because you're saying you have flu but you want to take an antibiotic, you can just easily walk to the next pharmacist, to the next pharmacy, and that dispenser will not care because they want sales, so they will give you the antibiotic. So there are no policies that are being enforced about the way we access these antibiotics. In Canada, you're supposed to have a prescription. I think to policymakers, we should put more stringent laws and enforce them on how users access antibiotics, because it's in this laissez-faire that we get resistance. Anyone can access an antibiotic anywhere they want and use it anyhow they want. So it needs a collective effort from the healthcare professional, policy makers, and the end user. We all need to work together to bring antimicrobial resistance to a complete end.
Wow, what a nice discussion. I love the fact that you began with individuals, the end users of this product, and of course, but before we rush to the policymakers, wanted to encourage the people who do self-prescription before they move from one pharmacy to another one, because maybe this one has refused and they are running to another one to get the self-prescription. What is your message to that very person? Ugandans are big-headed, especially these who are driving, who have some small money. Tebagala kuwuliriza. Soko banyonyole mu Luganda.
Okay, so mpuliriza. Bw'obanga ogenda ku pharmacy okwegulira eddagala nga toyina prescription, gwe wafunye nga flu, wafunye ekifuba, n'olowooza nti kangende ngule eddagala, bulijjo nkozesa amoxicillin, kangende ngule amoxicillin, n'ogenda mu pharmacy. Pharmacist n'akugamba owa dispenser yenna agenda okuweera eddagala, n'akugamba n'eddagala terikola ku kyoyina. Gwe n'owalaza empaka n'ogenda ku pharmacy endala nti ogule eddagala eryo lyennyini lye bagaanye okuwa. Manya nti oli mu contributing to antimicrobial resistance. Manya nti eddagala ogenda dikozesa, olikozese, ofune ekifuba n'ereero oddemu olikozese, naye kati ogenda funa infection nga yo yeetaaga eryo eddagala. Maybe kati nga otasobola self-prescribinga kubanga kati eno infection gy'ofunye togimanyi bulungi, bacterial infection eri systemic, erya mu musaayi togimanyi bulungi, awo olyoka ogende mu ddwaliro. Naye otuuke mu ddwaliro bakugambe nti bakuweera eddagala lyennyini wali ng'omira ng'olina ekifuba. Bakuweera eddagala lyennyini naye olimire nga teri kukolako. Bakuwe n'erirala nga teri kukolako. Meanwhile, this whole while you're suffering with an illness that could have stopped in like 5 days if you're consistent with medication and if you do not cause the resistance itself. So ogenda kwesanga ng'oguze eddagala, omize eddagala, omiriridde eddagala omwezi mulamba, lyonna libadde teri kukolako, kati weetaaga eddagala eririmu expensive, lya ssente nnyingi, ate the current state of the world right now, money is not very easy to get. So ogenda kwesanga ng'okozesezza ssente nnyingi, kyewandyewaze go, you are consistent with how you take your medicine, you do not self-prescribe, you go to the doctor to be diagnosed and given treatment. So ogenda kwesanga nga kikosa gwe in the long run, ogenda kusula nga mu ddwaliro bu infection obutonotono bwe wandyewaze, ogenda kwesanga nga kifuuka kintu ate kinene ekizibu ekinene nnyo naye nga bizibu bitono nnyo lino eddagala lye tulina lisobola obbiwonya naye in the long run ne kati we twogerera waliwo abantu abagenda mu ddwaliro ng'amadagala gonna zi antibiotics zonna tezibakolera nga beetaaga kugenda mu surgery oba beetaaga kugula ddagala ate nga lyo liri expensive nnyo ng'oyinza nosanga nga maybe teririna mu country ng'oyina ku travelinga walala oddifuna kati wobeera ngo you self prescribe manya nti in the long run it's going to affect you, it's going to affect your finances, your family, your children and everyone that's concerned around you. So I think really to prevent yourself from going through all that, please do not self-prescribe. When you're given medicine, please adhere to the way that the healthcare profession has told you to take to that medicine. If you don't understand an instruction, you can ask. They are always ready to give you information about medication and how to take it. Please and please and please do not self-prescribe.
Excellent. Thank you so much for rallying Ugandans against antimicrobial resistance. And of course, we'd like once again to say that antimicrobial resistance is on the rise, and you and me still have the energy and the courage to prevent this. As we call upon the policymakers to ensure that the law is tightened, however, you as an individual have to protect yourself because the consequences are larger compared to when you prevented yourself from reaching the end stage. I am Kamara Daniel. I hope to see you next Wednesday. Do you have any cutting shot you want to give our viewers, the last information about EMR?
Okay, so the last information is really that this is collective effort. You have a role to play. Me as a health professional, I also have a role to play. The government also has a role to play. But if we all do what we are supposed to do, we can actually bring AMR to an end. And this is not only a problem. You know, when they say AMR, you think it's a big thing, and it's just a thing for the doctors and the people who work in the health sector, but it affects you, and very directly. So please adhere to all the instructions and all the information that I've shared, and together we can end AMR.
Thank you so much for being good viewers of Google Television every Wednesday at 9 p.m. talking about different health information, health conditions that of course are intended to help you prevent yourself from getting these conditions, and of course so that you can remain socially, economically vibrant and developmental in your society. I am Kamara Daniel. I hope to see you next week Wednesday. Stay safe for now. Mweraba.